Okay, so in the last video we went ahead and we created our check required, and any field that we want to make sure is required we just pass into this array, and that's it. So I want to now do a check length. Okay, so let's say check length, and I actually want to run this on the username and the password. So we're going to have this function take in the input, which in this case will be username, and the minimum. So let's say minimum 3, and then the max. Let's say the max is, for the username, we'll do 15. Okay, and then I also want to run it on the password. So we'll say check length on password, and the password has to be at least 6. And let's say it can be up to, we'll do 25. So now we're going to create this function. So we'll go right under check required. Check input length. Okay, so for this we're going to create our function check length, which is going to take in the input. It's going to take in the min and the max. And then this is going to be pretty simple. We're basically just going to say if the input dot value, and then we want to check the length is a property called length, which we can use on arrays. We can also use it on strings. So here we're checking the length, and we're going to say if it's less than the minimum value, then we want to show our error. And this takes in the input and the message. So for the message, I'm going to put in some backticks here to use a template string, and we're going to use, again, get field name, and then pass in the input. I'm sorry, we have to actually wrap this in $, and then curly braces, because it's a it's an expression, a function. And then we'll say must be at least, and then we can put another variable in here, and we'll put whatever the min value is, characters. Okay, then we'll have an else if, and for the else if, we're going to check to see if the input dot value dot length is greater than the max. And if that's true, I'm just going to copy this show error. Then we're going to call show error, and we're going to say whatever the field name is must be, or not must be, let's say, yeah, we'll say must be less than, and then whatever the max. All right, and then we'll just have an else, and we'll show success and pass in the input. Okay, so let's go ahead and try that out. So we'll save that, and if we submit, so username must be at least 3 characters, password must be at least 6 characters. So if I pass in 2 here, 2 here, we're still going to get that error. If I hit 3, then that works. If I hit at least 6 here, that works. If I go over 15, let's just pass in more than 15 here, we get username must be less than 15 characters. Okay, so we can now run this check length on any field we want. We can pass in the min and the max. So next, let's do the email. So what we have up here, this is valid email. I'm actually going to change this up because we want it to be a function like this. So let's change it to check email, and it's going to take in, I mean, we could keep this as email, but I'm just going to stay consistent and pass in input. And then we'll use this same regular expression, so I'm going to keep that here, but I'm going to get rid of this line, and I'm going to just do a conditional if else. So this is going to be show success. And then here in this if statement, we're going to say if the regular expression dot test pass in the input, then we're going to, actually that's going to return true. So the show success should actually go here. and then down here in the else, we'll say show error, and pass in input, and we'll just go ahead and say email is not valid. We could do the input and then use the get field name, but it's always going to be email, so we'll just use that. And then down here, we'll just simply call check email, and we'll pass in email. All right, so if I just type something in here, email is not valid. If I do test@test.com and submit, email is not valid. Oh, you know what I did wrong is when I did the test, I did it on the input that's being passed in, which is the element. We need the value. So input.value, let's add trim as well. And then, yeah, so that should work, hopefully. Email is not valid, test@test.com, submit, and now it works. Okay, so we have our check email. So the next one I'm going to do is, and the last one I'm going to do is make sure the passwords match. All right, because right now I can just type in whatever. Oh, that confirm password should be type password, not text. Didn't even realize that. But yeah, I could pass in, as long as this is 6 characters, this is going to work. And I don't want that. These need to match. So in our script, let's create a new function. We'll put this right down here. And let's say function check passwords match. And we're going to pass in here, let's say input 1 and input 2. And then all we have to do is make sure that they are equal to each other. So we'll say if input 1 is, actually we need the value. I keep forgetting to add the value. So if that value is not equal to input 2.value, let's add the trim on there as well. Well, no, we don't want the trim on this. If that's not equal, then we're going to show error, and we're going to show the error on input 2, which is the confirm password. And then for the message, we'll say passwords do not match. Okay, and then down here, we'll run check passwords match. We want to pass in password and password 2. Okay, so let's try that out. Just type in whatever. So we get passwords do not match. So the error is going to be on this. So now let's make a match. I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now they should both be green. All right, and let's just make sure that this works. And let's add a username. And now everything works. All the validations passed. So hopefully you can see how much neater this is. In our event listener, we're just simply calling these functions that we created, and we could create more if we wanted to do other types of validation. Maybe, maybe your password has to have a number and a character or something like that, some crazy stuff like that. You could easily add that function and then just run it down here. And there's other ways to do it as well. You might think of something better, but I think this is pretty nice, pretty clean, and that's it. I will see you in the next project.